Hi everyone, thanks for watching this video with me today. My name is David, I'm a life coach, and I make these videos to hopefully help you guys heal from your traumas. Today's a video about borderline and CPTSD. They are very similar. They look and can feel very similar. It's actually one of the most common misdiagnoses, especially a long time ago, before CPTSD was recognized and identified amongst mental health practitioners. There were people with CPTSD were very, very commonly misdiagnosed with borderline personality disorder. So first, I want to let you know that I'm not a therapist. I'm a life coach. Okay, so I'm going to give you my opinion on these things, but to really know if you have a disorder, a mental health disorder, if there's something wrong, you have a problem, things like this, you need to go see a mental health practitioner, a licensed mental health practitioner. Okay, and those are the people that will tell you, they will diagnose you. So I'm not here to diagnose anybody. I'm not here to tell you have something or you don't. What I'm going to do is simply talk about some of the symptoms of these things, and maybe hopefully it'll add some clarity to you, and maybe you will then go seek help, because my main objective is that you guys are healthy, that you get better, and that all of you get the help that all of you need. Okay? And I'm not trying to do this for me. Like I said, I'm a life coach. I can't help people with borderline personality disorder. Okay, so I hope that people, if you think you have it or you know you have it, that you will get the help that you definitely need. All right? Okay, so first of all, somebody could have both. I just want to establish that right off the bat. Somebody could have both. Very common for people with borderline personality disorder to have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, CPTSD is also known as complex trauma disorder, okay? And it's a response to a series of traumatic events, prolonged exposure, and we have feelings that we cannot escape, okay? So a lot of you guys watching this video may have that. I don't know. It's best to, and I won't keep saying this, but it's best to go to a professional that can tell you if you do or not. But there are many symptoms that need to be treated, okay? If we don't get CPTSD treated, we can have many, many, many more problems, okay? CPTSD is an umbrella term. Okay? It describes all the problems you have from prolonged trauma, all right? And there's all kinds of things we can have, all kinds of different disorders. You can have depression and anxiety, and also have anxiety disorders. You have addiction disorders. You can have sleep disorders. We're now finding out that people with ADHD maybe have been neglected in their childhood. People with autism may have been neglected. It might be from neglect in childhood. We're finding out that lots of autoimmune diseases are caused from neglect in childhood. CPTSD, okay? So that's something that you guys might have, and you could also have BPD. They can go hand in hand. It's not either or. All right? So that being said about CPTSD, many, many, many symptoms and problems that can come from this, okay? And you guys could have the beginning of CPTSD early in your childhood and have these kinds of behaviors and symptoms all through your childhood, all through your adulthood. And if you keep having prolonged exposure to stress, so if you keep having toxic abusive relationships in your adulthood, this just keeps going on and on and on. And there's a lot of symptoms associated with this. So we need to identify this. It's very important because you need to be treated. Either one. If you have either one or both, it needs to be treated, or you'll have more and more problems. I promise you, okay? All right. So let's get into borderline personality disorder. And this is something you can find in the DSM-5, the Diagnostic Statistic Manuals for Mental Disorders, Volume 5, okay? And this talks a lot about all 10 personality disorders and tells you a lot about borderline. And I want to be very clear that a personality disorder is very pervasive, okay? It's very pervasive. People with it are very rigid, very inflexible, don't tend to change, very often not get better, very often not even identify their own problems or admit it or accept it. It's you that has the problem, okay? Very, very common. So it's not typical that people with personality disorders are so interested to know if they are or do have one, okay? So BPD is a mental disorder characterized by the instability of mood and behavior and functioning in their lives. Okay? And 3 parts make up who somebody is. So there are 3 parts that make up who a borderline is, someone with the disorder is, and that's genetics. So people that with borderline personality disorder could be more susceptible to getting it because it's in their family. People with borderline very commonly may also have people in their family that are schizotypal personality disorder and schizophrenic. You might have someone in your family that talks to themselves, hears voices, mumbles a lot, delusional, hears and sees things that aren't there. Okay, you may have people in your family that are homeless or in mental hospitals, things like this. Very common if you have borderline. Very common that people in your family are like this. Okay, so genetics play a big part. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to have trauma, is what we're finding out, to have borderline personality disorder. It's more of the way the brain has been made, how it functions, and how it takes the environment and what's going on around them, how it identifies these things. So very common that a borderline will be hypersensitive, believe that they've been abused when they necessarily have not. Okay, very accusatory. Lots of people in prison and in jails for crimes they never committed against a borderline. There are lots of borderlines in prison and in jail for committing heinous crimes against people. Okay, I don't typically know a lot of people just with CPTSD like that. So then there's genetics, and then there's also culture, and then there's also the environment, how we're all raised, that makes up who somebody is. Okay, and this is very important when we're talking about these things here, because CPTSD could make up all 3, could be. But typically CPTSD is an actual event, series of events that you can identify in your life. Now, it might be a little difficult to do that in your childhood. Neglect can cause trauma. People aren't aware of that, and sometimes it's very hard for them to identify the trauma in their childhood or just the neglect. It can be very difficult. Sometimes I point this out to people, and it's still a little bit hard for them to see it. So, borderline personality disorder. It's very important to understand that there's a very distinct criteria for this disorder. Okay, there's 9 personality traits, and you must have 5 out of 9 to be diagnosed with the disorder. All right, so I'm not going to go over every one. That's something you guys can do again in the DSM-5 if you want to do that. I don't advise self-diagnosis. It's an awful thing to do, and it can get you in a lot of trouble. What it can get you, what if you have a problem you need to fix, and you look it up and say, no, actually I don't have it. Okay, don't fix it. Or I have a problem I need to fix, it's this problem when it's actually this problem. Or I have a problem I need to fix, it's this when it isn't. I have borderline, but you don't. You can't treat yourself, so why diagnose yourself? Okay? So first thing to really understand with borderlines, fear of abandonment. Frantic. They may take frantic efforts to avoid this abandonment. Now, a lot of you guys that don't have borderline may say, oh, I think I'm like that because I can remember many times where I took frantic efforts to make my partner not leave. So I think what's really important is the abandonment, perceived abandonment, and maybe not exist. Or was it real obvious that they were going to leave you? They told you they would threaten you all the time. They would triangulate with other people to show you like, hey, you're about to lose me to this person. Is it reasonable that you have these fear of abandonment? There's not something wrong to have a fear that someone's going to abandon me. Is reasonable if they're cheating on me, if they don't come home for a week, right? That's reasonable. Fear of abandonment. So were yours reasonable? Were they perceived, or are they real? Okay, is this clear and cut? I remember I never really was a jealous person or had these fears of abandonment when I was young, and it took for a girlfriend of mine to do all that. She was cheating on me, and she was threatening to leave. She was triangulating me. She would be silent treatment and come back. If you care about somebody and you choose to stay in that relationship, you are going to be insecure. No emotional security. So you're going to be have a fear or be afraid that someone will abandon you. So which is it, right? Was it they never said anything, you just thought they may, and then you abandoned them? Because that's normal. Typical for someone who has massive fear of abandonment, especially a borderline, actually abandons their partners thinking they're doing it first. They may not really, they may keep a foot out the door. They may tell people you're a bad person. All these things is to not fully commit, to stay safe because I have such a fear of abandonment. Okay? Or is it somebody literally exploiting your security and threatening to leave and these kinds of things? That's going to give you fear of abandonment. Just something to think about. Next one would be unstable relationships. Okay? And so a lot of us who have C-PTSD from emotional abuse have unstable relationships. We do. But do they start and stop super quick? Okay? My relationships typically did not. They typically did take time, and they went a little slow, and we didn't, one of them we moved in too quick. But I don't have a lot of relationships in my life. I mean, my major relationships are on one hand, where you have a borderline that's dated like 50 people, had sex with them, maybe lived with them, maybe even just for days or a week-long, 2-week-long relationships that were just totally intense, and they loved them so much and hated them so much. Okay? Unstable self-image or sense of self. And it's not just low self-worth. It's not just I'm very ugly even if I'm attractive, and if you even, and no matter what, I'm ugly. And that comes down to every little single thing. Yeah, but I'm ugly. Yeah, but I'm ugly. But I'm so ugly. They're probably staring at me because I'm ugly. Or, and it also could be they tell you who they are. I'm very, I really, really care about loyalty. I mean, people gotta be loyal, and I'm so loyal, and then the second they're not, or the second you're around some other people, they're like flirting with other people. You find out later they told a secret of yours to somebody. So you're not loyal. They don't know themselves, okay? Very contradicting. Is that you? Or do you just have C-PTSD? Okay. I remember how I was at my very, very worst of C-PTSD. And I actually met quite a few friends at that time, which is bizarre, not common. And years later, I talked to them about this, and they're like, gosh, David, when I met you, you were saying, hey, this isn't me right now. I'm messed up. I just got out of a horrible relationship. But I wasn't trashing the other person. Because borderlines will idealize, devalue. You're all good or all bad. There is no in between. If you're not with me, if you don't have the same exact opinion, you're opposing me. You're against me. Paranoid. See that? Emotionally unstable. Now, C-PTSD can be too, but it doesn't look as bad as a lot of borderlines. Borderlines will be commonly misdiagnosed with bipolar, and they're not. They have borderline, and it's so extremely common. Their emotions and moods will be like a light switch, on, off. I love you, I hate you. I love you, I hate you. I love them and I hate them, and now I love you again and I hate you again. Now I'm back with them and I love you. And see these unstable relationships, very common for borderline, to just literally bed jump, house jump, couch jump. I'm staying at this friend's, now I have a boyfriend, I love them, now I'm living with them, and now I'm with them and this person and that person, and I just go, I have 50 relationships, 50 boyfriends I can tell you all about, and they all abuse me. Now, I can tell you, like I said, I haven't had a ton of relationships, not very, strong, committed, and I can tell you, a lot of them abuse me. But a borderline will take it to such a more degree. They aren't healed, and you won't understand, and they're just like this and like that, and not very detailed oriented. And then it's everybody. It's my friend, it's my doctor, my therapist, my boss. That's a lot. And you'll see them be impulsive. When we're emotionally unstable, it makes us more impulsive, and we can do things like quit our job all of a sudden. You're like, why'd you do that? I used an example before of, say I'm sitting at my desk and all of a sudden I get a thought, I want to move to Mexico. Okay, we get crazy thoughts. All of us do every once in a while, depending on how our life is and stuff like this. But maybe I get a thought, I'm going to move to Mexico, right? And then it's got to get to a feeling. I start feeling it. I'm starting to feel like I want to move to Mexico. Maybe this would take days, weeks, months. And then I may start telling people, I think I'm going to move to Mexico. And then I start taking actions to do that. I start looking it up, and I start looking for a home, and I get a place, and you see that there's a process, and it takes quite a while. Or I can just be sitting here and going, I think I want to move to Mexico. I'm moving to Mexico. I quit my job. Bye. See ya. And David is gone tomorrow. Not at work. Where is he? I guess he moved to Mexico. Suicide. Very touchy subject. Suicide. So I just want to be real quick with it. Okay. And I don't know if this will help, because people with C-PTSD, they commit suicide every day. Real sad. And people with borderline do. A major difference might be thoughts and feelings. So I can tell you I've had thoughts. I've never had feelings, and I've never taken actions. Remember how that I just got a feeling, or I just got a thought, I got a feeling, and then I started committing and taking action. Okay, where are people on that suicide? So I'd be weary if you're already worried about that you have BPD and you've done all these things and you have tried to commit suicide before. Okay, so, and that's the other thing. Just want to be clear that not just one of these means that you have borderline. Not just 2, not 3, not 4. Okay, you need 5 diagnostic traits, and I'm not even reading just the traits. I'm just going over some things that are kind of just to show the difference, and not things that are similar. Again, light switch is like our mood swings, behaviors and stuff is like a light switch, and affect may not come out. I may tell you I'm angry. I may tell you I'm happy. Okay, that's just totally emotionally unstable. I may be extremely angry. I may be violent, and that's where you kind of draw the line with C-PTSD, okay? I've had violent partners while I've had C-PTSD, and I didn't hit them back. So I'm not a violent person, okay? Not many people are violent, okay? So borderlines tend to be violent. There are many in prison who have committed murder, have murdered their children, have murdered their husband, their wives, stuff like this. So anger and violence go hand in hand, they can. And so violent means I just bang things. It means I hit something. It means I throw it away real violently. I yell and scream and I threaten. Okay? Borderlines, I think of borderlines kind of like Helen Keller. Okay, in the way that like Helen Keller obviously was, deaf, dumb, and blind, and they can't communicate. They can't get people to. Helen Keller couldn't get people to understand her. It took forever for her to even be able to communicate to people. And now afterwards, she has beautiful quotes and stuff, but she couldn't get anything across to anybody. Couldn't connect. Couldn't attach. Couldn't explain. And I think a lot of people with borderline feel that way, and they become very angry, very, very angry, and can become very violent. Okay, so where are you on the violence spectrum, right? Dissociation. We could dissociate because we have C-PTSD. Okay, but if we're dissociating half our day, 80% of our day, 90% of our day, 100% of our day, we could have something more serious involved, a dissociative disorder, and that's very correlated to borderline personality disorder. Very common that people with BPD dissociate quite often, and that's why they don't have a very good sense of their own self. Does that make sense? If I dissociate and escape out of my body all the time, then I can't possibly know how I feel, what I want, what I need, what I value very well. I'm not very clear with who I am, okay? Paranoid ideation, and this is more fear of abandonment. Are you going to leave me? Do you like her? You still love me? No, you probably hate me. I'm stupid. You're probably going to leave me. Now, I get these statements a lot from people with borderline. anything you do or say is contrived and perceived as abandonment. Almost anything. So it's like, sorry to ask again, but you're probably not going to reply to me because I asked you again. Oh, I'm sorry to bother you again. I know you probably don't like me, and you're probably never going to talk to me again. These kinds of just ultimate doom. Okay, it's more common. That's when we start getting into personality disorder. Okay. I hope this video helped you guys. I do. I hope it didn't confuse you more. And I want to be clear for the last time, go seek professional help for these kinds of answers, for diagnosis. Don't self-diagnosis, don't self-treatment. All of this needs talk therapy really badly. And if you don't get it, you could have many more problems, and I almost guarantee you will. Okay, whatever caused C-PTSD will keep getting worse if you don't fix this. If you keep getting relationships that are this unstable and abusive and traumatic, you're going to keep getting worse. These are very serious subjects, and people commit suicide every single day from these things. So please find the help that you need, okay? Anybody want coaching? You find me at daviddemars.com. Love yourself first. Ask questions. Bye.